Well, we've got our first leaked image of the Canon EOS R1. It was bound to happen at some point, and this leaked image shows a radical new design. And it's not coming from some sort of low-resolution image. It's actually coming from a video clip at the G7 Summit this weekend in Hiroshima, Japan. Stick around for all the details after this short break. But first, please do me a favor. Follow me on Twitter, but most importantly, please subscribe to this channel. It doesn't cost you anything and really does help this channel grow. And if you're already a subscriber, thanks so much for your support. I should have seen this yesterday. This actually came out on Twitter yesterday, but I went to bed early. I mean, really early, like 8 o'clock in the evening, because I knew today was going to be a big day. I was going to be covering the Sony ZV-1 leaked images, leaked specifications, coming up to the announcement at around 10 o'clock in the morning. And as I woke up at 4 o'clock this morning, looking at the news, getting my script ready, I discovered some leaked images for the Canon EOS R1. And not just a leaked image, as I said in the intro, leaked video. It's actually, let me show you this tweet here. This comes from Chelco in Japan. And you can see right here, we have a leaked image of a prototype new camera. It's got the same size and dimensions as what you'd expect to see in the Canon EOS R1. It's very similar to the size that we see in the Canon EOS R3. But if you notice at the top here, the Canon EOS R3, that little hump. Now let's go back to the leaked images. You noticing something interesting here? We don't have that big hump anymore. And it does look like there is a hot shoe there, but it looks kind of strange. It looks weird. It looks a little bit more minimalist. This is definitely interesting. And if we look at this video clip here, it does show that it's at the G7 Summit in Hiroshima, but then it punches into this gentleman who's using this strange new camera. And it could be that Canon is testing the Canon EOS R1 in the wild. I mean, after all, the G7 Summit comes around once in a while, and this would be a perfect opportunity to test the camera inside in a very busy environment where a lot of flashes are going off in low light situations to be able to capture portraits. It's very interesting. This is looking like a very radical design for the Canon EOS R1. Let's take a look at the Canon EOS R3 one more time. It's got very smooth lines. It's very ergonomic. It's very pleasing on the eyes. But you'll see it's got these rather bold buttons and screws on the front, leading you to believe that it's almost some sort of transformer that's going to transform into the world's most powerful, most comprehensive camera that we've ever seen. But these leaked images show a very different camera. We do see some buttons, or what appears to be an outline of some sort of button, right beneath the photographer's finger in the lower part of the frame. And then as we move up, in the other hand, we see what appears to be, again, another button, but it's really hard to make out the detail. We see a sensor up top. We see some other buttons, but again, the top of the camera, but I don't see the traditional dials and buttons that I normally see on the Canon EOS R3. The mount does appear to be the exact same RF mount. It's got the exact same size. But one thing we do have to keep in mind is the G7 Summit is covered worldwide. It's a very big event. So Canon's probably masked the look of this camera to some degree, and maybe, just maybe, this is a fake shell. This isn't the actual shell that we're going to see in the Canon EOS R1. And of course, all the badging would be removed because, after all, there's a lot of photographers covering this event. And you know what they're going to do, right? They'll take video, they'll take snapshots as Chelco did, or at least Chelco got from somebody else. It definitely looks like a new camera. It looks like a new prototype camera. And it's most likely the R1 because, after all, the Canon EOS R5 Mark II wouldn't be this big, would it? Yes, I know what you're thinking. We don't even have any confirmation on the Canon EOS R1, do we? Well, actually, we do. You see, Canon said this at CP Plus earlier this year. Canon's development team was asked a question about the R1 and responded thusly. Canon's development team said this at CP Plus. If you look at our portfolio, our highest end case is the EOS R3. I think we can say that it's our flagship product, but if you look at the EOS 1D and compare it to the EOS 3, you'll know it's worthy of the flagship designation because it's equivalent in terms of Canon's advanced features. So of course, the EOS R3 could already claim the flagship title. There's a reason we named it 3. And you can expect there'll be a 1, which is currently being worked on and will be our most premium model. So that's the kind of interpretation that you can do. I have never mentioned it so clearly before, so that's probably how you can interpret it. So Canon's teasing us left and right. Canon's development team teased us at CP Plus saying that, yes, okay, look, the R1 is real. We're working on it. It's going to be our most premium model and premium most likely in price. But in terms of capabilities, is going to be the master of everything. So we know they're working on it, and to pass up an opportunity to shoot it at, well, the G7 in Hiroshima, Japan, it's right there. They don't have to drive far. It's perfect. It's the perfect opportunity. And it's also the perfect opportunity to, well, get stories like this out there, to start ramping up the discussion, to start ramping up the press, the news cycle, to get the focus on them. And it's working, because today Sony's going to be announcing the ZV-1 Mark II. And I already had a video prepared. It's right up here. It's in the first slide at the top, where it's going to talk about the new leaked images of the Sony ZV-1. But as soon as I saw the Canon EOS R1 leaked image, leaked video at a Japanese event, a major Japanese event, the G7 Summit, well, obviously, this has to be my first video, so I'm focusing on this. And by the time I'm done with this, that you're watching it right now, well, we're already about an hour away from the Sony ZV-1, so that video is sadly going to get scrubbed. Even though I've got all the smart pre-order links in the comment section down below, I've got everything ready to go with that video. This is the biggest deal. It's the most anticipated camera this year. It was the most anticipated camera last year. And now it looks like the Canon EOS R1 is going to be ready for the Paris 2024 Olympics. And with Canon's development team already teasing us back at CP Plus about, yes, we're working on it, it's going to be our most premium product. I've never been so clear about this before, letting us know that, yeah, it's coming. And now to start leaking stuff at a major event like this, I'm beginning to wonder if we might get an announcement or leaked details even sooner than the first quarter of next year. Now, Canon Rumors, let me check to see if Canon Rumors has put anything out. I texted Craig earlier today to see what he thought of this, because he hasn't got anything up yet. He's probably validating. And note, there's still, at this point, at the point of recording, it's now 5 o'clock in the morning. We have nothing credible, nothing validated, but this does look pretty good. Again, somebody could have faked it. But if you take a look at a wide shot here, and then where they zoom in, take a look right here. It looks like this is the gentleman that they're zooming in on. And yeah, it looks pretty good. So the hype machine for the Canon EOS R1 is starting to build up. And I know I'm going to get questions in the comment section about, yes, but what about the firmware updates for the Canon EOS R5? You said it was going to be coming. And yes, I did. And yes, that's coming from Canon Rumors. They were the source of this. Got to give credit where credit is due. We are going to be getting more firmware updates on the Canon EOS R5. We're going to get a 2.0. We're going to get multiple different firmware updates. And the last time I reached out to Craig, he told me, and this isn't on his website, this is just something he told me himself, they're developing it. And once it's developed, it'll be released. So they got to develop it and test it. And I wouldn't be surprised, it's already at the end of May here. I wouldn't be surprised if sometime in the next 30 days we do have a firmware update. Because if we look at the last release of a firmware update was about a month or two ago, where we had that pixel shift technology, that high resolution image, 400 megapixels, I think we're definitely due for another one. If we just follow the cadence of when Canon releases firmware updates, they don't usually release them back to back, unless of course there's an issue. We definitely do get them spaced by a month or two apart, and I'm expecting another one pretty shortly. And then a 2.0, I'm not sure when we're going to get that. But what do you think? Do you think that the Canon EOS R1 is going to be announced this year? Do you think we'll get a development announcement this fall? Up until this leaked image, I was thinking that definitely a development announcement for this fall is the most likely case. I don't think the camera's going to be announced later this year, but there is a chance they could go ahead and announce the Canon EOS R1 in late October, early November, and make it available for sale in the first quarter of 2024. Keep in mind, the Paris Olympics are coming up the beginning of August or beginning of July. It's right around July, August, right around that time frame. So for that to happen, they can't release it onto the market any later than around March. So we're getting close now. I know. Look, we're halfway through 2023, and I don't want to rush this year because it's beautiful outside. Well, it's dark still, but it's beautiful outside. I've just got finished doing my garden, getting all the tomato plants in, getting all the flowers done. I want to relax and enjoy. And as we start to move into June, July, and August, things start to slow down a little bit here. But maybe Canon's got other plans. Maybe they're going to start leaking more information. And yes, Canon, unlike Sony and Panasonic, does actively leak information to drive the news cycle. And I think it's very smart. After all, how much does this video cost Canon? Well, absolutely nothing. So if you want to stay up to date on all the latest news and rumors, whether it's the Sony ZV-1 or the Canon EOS R1, then go ahead and subscribe, but make sure you choose all notifications. And for all the minor news and rumors out there, for all the kind of news stories that aren't quite big enough to have their own separate video, go ahead and follow me on Twitter. Not only do I put out those news and rumor stories, but I also cover really big price decreases or big sales, such as $500 off the Canon EOS R5. And if you take into account the battery grip that's coming with that as a package, you're saving $850 off the Canon EOS R5. That's a huge savings. The Nikon ZV-7 Mark II. I just said ZV-7 Mark II. You can tell what's on my brain here. I was getting ready to do that video. The Nikon Z7 Mark II is $400 off. The Z6 Mark III or Z6 Mark II is $300 off. I'm going to end this video pretty quickly before I really just mess things up. But there's lots of sales, lots of stuff coming on, and I always put that out in my on Twitter. Adorama at B&H, and also use your local camera company, Downtown Camera in Toronto, Henry's. These guys need your business. Support your local camera stores. And even the big guys they don't want to see these small camera stores disappear either. But yeah, really excited here. The Canon EOS R1, maybe we'll start to get more leaks and information on this camera. That's 2 tidbits of information this year. Canon confirming the R1 is coming, that it's going to be a really big deal, that it's going to be a premium product. And here today we're getting leaked video, and I'll stay on top of this story once I hear more. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a follow-up video later on today. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. Have yourself a great day, and we'll see you again soon.